Have you ever needed to generate a random number in the prototype that you made with the Figma and you didn't know how to make it because there is no native solution? This video is for you because I'm going to show you a trick which you can use in order to generate a random number inside the Figma. Get sure to watch this video until the end. My name is Kia and here is the Kimo. Welcome back to my channel. So often in so many prototypes, we need to create some random events that the user cannot understand the pattern behind those happening events. And one of the things that we need in order to be able to create this kind of events is the functionality of generating random numbers. For example, imagine the events of rolling a dice. Users get a random number each time they roll their dice with no specific pattern that they can figure it out. And in today's video, I'm going to show you how we can generate this random number inside of Figma and then use that generated number in order to make advanced prototype, such as a prototype in which the user needs to roll the dice. Now, before we get into the main part of this video, I would like to ask you to share this video with the other designers in your community that you think this video can help them as well. Plus, don't forget to like this video and share your thought and opinion in the comment section of this video. Smash the subscribe button if you found this video helpful as well. Now, without further ado, let's get started. The first thing that I have to mention in this video is that we're gonna use variables in order to make this functionality, in order to generate a random number. Therefore, if you would like to follow this tutorial, you need to be able to have access to Pro account and license, and you are not going to be able to use the variables inside the free version of the Figma. Then I'm gonna open the local variables, which you can find it here in this part of the design panel. You just click on this setting icon and then you will be able to open the variable panel. The trick that I'm going to use is I'm going to make a counter, which is going to start to count from basically minimum number that I'm going to define to a specific maximum number. So the random number is going to be generated between these two numbers that we will set later on. And for each of these numbers, we need a variable. So basically for minimum, for maximum, and for the random number itself. And the other thing, as I said, we need to make this counter. So we need some random factor, some variables or some number that is going to be added to the minimum number. And then the number that we have, the random number that we have, is going to grow all the way to the maximum number. Okay, let's get back to the Figma file. So as I explained right now, the first variable that we need is basically a number, which is going to store the main random number that we are generating. So I'm going to call it the random number. For now, the value doesn't matter. When we are working on the interaction itself, we will get sure that we have these proper values here. Now let's create the second number. This is going to basically store the min number that we would like to define. The minimum, basically, number that the random number can be. Then let's create the next random, not the random number, but the next number variable is going to be for storing the max number. And the last one is going to be the random number factor, which is defining the unit that we would like to add to the random number to grow between the min number and max number. And the last variable that I would need later on in order to make this prototype is the variable which is going to store the number that we are counting. It's going to change a lot. So I'm going to make a new number variable and I'm going to name it basically counter. So we have all the variables that we need. Now it's time to get into creating our interaction. So let's close this panel. I'm going to create one component set with two variants in order to create a loop in which one specific interaction, which is going to basically be the counter, which basically a functionality which is going to add a number based on the unit that we're going to define to the minimum number that we're going to define until we reach to the maximum number. So basically it's a counting thingy. We're going to use this component set with two variants to make that loop. We use one variant to add one unit to the number that we have, then navigate to the second frame or second variant, and there again we check the conditions. If everything is still in the condition that we want, between the minimum and maximum still we are. Then we will add again to the random variable and then come back one more time to the first variant. So we make a loop in which we're going to check the conditions and add to our counter. This is the way we're going to make a random variables. So let's get back to our Figma file one more time. To make our component set, I'm going to make one frame, which I'm going to name it counter / maybe step, or let's say step 1. And then while we are selecting this frame, I'm going to click on this icon here and create my component. Immediately, I'm going to click on this plus button to add second variant. So basically convert our component to a component set with 2 variants. However, I'm going to delete this second variant. And the reason is that I would like to add my interaction first to this variant, and then I'm going to duplicate this variant and take all the interaction that we made by default to the second variant. So we don't have to do the same thing 2 times. Let's change the name of the properties of this component to steps. In this way, our component makes more sense. And from up here, while you are selecting the first variant, you can switch to the prototype panel and make our first interaction by clicking on this plus icon in the interaction section. So we open the interaction panel. You can see here the first attribute that we need to set here is the trigger, like when exactly our counter needs to start counting. And as I explained before, we would like to create this effect based on the time and not based on the user interaction. So wherever we add this component in any frame, in any place of our prototype, the counter should start to work with no user interaction. And in this way, we're going to make a random number and then show it to the user if user does a specific interaction. Therefore, I'm going to set the trigger on after delay and come up here. And in order to make the event looks more or feels more random, I'm going to reduce the delay time to 1 millisecond. In this way, counter is gonna count faster, and the random number that is going to be generated is going to get generated randomly, or at least it feels like that. Now it is time to create our action here, which is going to be the main logic of our function. So first thing that we would like to do is, of course, checking if our counter is still between minimum and maximum number that we define. This is the first thing we want to do. And that means that we need to create one conditional prototype or conditional interaction. Now we have our interaction panel and we have the first condition that we would like to check. The first condition is to check if our counter number is bigger and equal, or bigger than or equal to the minimum number that we define. This means either we are basically in the minimum number, or our counter is basically at the beginning of the counting process, or the next condition that we're going to check is basically if we reach the maximum. So this was the first condition, and if the condition is true, then we would like to basically set the value of the counter variable to the value that it has, the random factor that we gonna define, like how many unit is gonna be added to the counter. Either it can be 1, like 1 by 1 we count the number, or we can count by different intervals. And this way we can make even more random behavior. Plus, and the second thing that should happen is after we add to the counter, we need to build our loop. So if we add to the counter, we need to add a change to action, and we need to basically later, when we have the second variant, change to the second variant of this component. And in this way, we're going to make our loop. But for now, let's leave it as it is. We don't need to add something there. And this is basically the first condition. The second condition is we check if the variable or the counter is still in the basically in less than the maximum number that we have. So I'm gonna create the second condition here, And let's make the panel a little bit bigger that we see both the conditions like this. You have control on all the window. You can even make it bigger. This way you have more space to see everything clear. Okay, the second condition that we want to check is basically if the counter is still less than the maximum number that we're going to define, or sorry, we need to say if what happened if it's greater than. So if it is greater than or equal the maximum number that we define, in this way we need to reset all the variables that we had. So I'm going to use again set the value set the variable action, and then I'm going to take the basically minimum the counter that we have, and then set the counter, the value of this counter, to the minimum number. So in this way we're going to basically make reset the counter and put it basically in the initial state. This was the first thing that should happen. We know that after this we again need to change to the first variant. In this way again we make a loop, so we don't want to just reset the variables, but we want to again continue growing the values. You can make this interaction in different ways. You can even combine these two and use the else. For example, you can say if the counter blah blah blah, for example the first condition, and then you can use the and between the two conditions to check both conditions at the same time. These are all possible. You can write down your own version, make your own interaction, and then share it with me. This is going to be very helpful that everyone kind of share their opinion, share their knowledge with everyone else. So get sure to do that. You can use the comment section. You can also share those points in the Discord server that we have. There you can also be active and share your learnings. But for now, I'm going to stop here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to make a test prototype to understand if the counter is working well or not. But for now, we need to do a lot of stuff. So the first thing is that when I have this variant here, the first variant, I'm going to add one text layer in the middle. This text layer is going to basically show me the number of the counter. So in this way, we can understand if the counter is working or not. To do that, I have to basically connect this text layer or the value that we see here to the variable. So I'm going to come here while I'm selecting the text layer, and then from here I'm going to click on this one, and then I'm going to select the variable that I would like to connect to this one, this text basically, which is going to be the counter. For now it's 0, it's the initial state. We are good. I'm going to select this variant and then create our next variant. So now we have the step 1 and a step 2, which I'm going to name it step 2 just to keep it consistent. And yeah, when I'm switching to the prototype, you can see that this variant that we added right now has the prototype that we made. The interaction is there, and that's kind of a positive thing. The only thing we need to change is to make the loop happen. So when we are in this step 2, we need to change to the step 1 after checking the condition to get sure that this thing is going to work continuously. And the animation type can stay on stance because we want to just change everything very quickly and we don't care to have some smart animation. Doesn't matter so much actually. In a variant 1 also, we open the prototype and or interaction and then get sure that we're going to switch to the step 2 each time that we check the counter condition and everything else. We're going to do the same thing again if the counter is exceeding the maximum amount in the variant number 1. So now we basically have a loop. Just to kind of understand visually if the counter is working or not, I'm going to make the background color of the second variant red. In this way, I can visually kind of understand that, or easier understand that the counter is working. I'm going to make a new frame here, and this is going to be the frame that we are going to use to check our component. Let's go to our asset list here on top, And let's make one instance of this counter that we made. I'm going to position it inside the preview frame. And yes, let's give a try and run the preview and see if it works or not. However, I'm already aware that I forgot something. Yeah, you can see that the counter is there. It's not even changing to anything, kind of like to the second variant, because the reason is that the variables are not set properly. I need to open the local variables. And here, first of all, I'm going to define a maximum number, 6. And then the random factor, I would like to keep it as 1. And the counter itself can start from minimum, I guess. That's maybe we can connect it to the minimum number in this way. And then let's run this. And then you can see that when you set the variables or the value of the variables, the counter is working. And basically here we have something that is counting between 0 and 6 very quickly, which you cannot see. So the last step for us is to stop this counter and then set the final result to another variable, and then use that variable to show it somewhere or connect it to the variant properties of another component and kind of show a specific variant of a component. For example, I'm gonna do that for rolling a dice prototype. Bear with me, that's the last step. We're gonna continue. Okay, we have this counter and you saw that it's counting something, but I would like to very quickly make a little bit more complex prototype that we can understand how the things are working. So I'm going to add a text layer within this basically a frame that we have, and I'm going to write down roll the dice and yeah, let's put it here, this text. We need another text layer, which I'm going to put it here. I'm not going to focus on the visual appearance of the element. You can really spend more time to make things look better. The other thing that we need is one text here to show the random number that at the end of the day we want to show to the user, which I'm going to connect it basically to a random number here. I show you how you can connect the variables to a text layer. Yeah, random number, and it's 0 because yeah, it is 0. We didn't assign anything else. And then I would like to have a button, which I'm going to use this text layer, bring it down here, and I'm going to write down go. And then I'm going to use the combination key Shift A to make a frame around this text layer. We can add a padding a little bit, and then the horizontal and vertical resizing behavior, I already set it in the hug. In this way, the size of the button is going to be adjusted based on the length of the text within it. And then we're going to add a background color here. It can be a red one to grab more attention. Yeah, it doesn't matter so much. We are not really focusing on the style of this stuff here. And we have the first frame here. We can go to the next one. So I'm going to duplicate this one. In the second frame, we don't need basically this counter anymore, because we're supposed to count or set the random number or generate the random number in the first frame when the user click on the go. And then here we just want to show to the user that what was the random number. So we can have reset button here. Instead of go button, let's make it a little bit grayish. And instead of roll the dice, we can basically make this number a little bit bigger to grab more attention. Does not matter so much. We will recreate this basically prototype soon with the real dice. And yeah, now we have the counter. We just need an interaction to generate the random number. Basically set the value of the counter to another variable and then show it here. That variable is going to be the random number. You can see that it's connected already. When we click on the go, this interaction should happen. So we got to come to we select the go button and then go to prototyping panel and then create our interaction. The interaction is going to be triggered when the user click on this basically button, meaning that Here, the trigger value should be on click. And the action itself is very simple. First of all, we need to set the variable, the value of the variable random number equal to counter. That's the first thing we're going to do. Okay. And then we are going to get sure that we're going to navigate to the next page to see the result. So I'm going to add a new action and I'm going to change it to, I'm going to basically set the navigate to action. And then we're going to navigate to the second preview. Here I use a bad naming. Let's maybe change the second one to result. And the first one we can, I don't know, call it start. Doesn't matter so much. Okay, we're going to get back to the prototype that we had, to the interaction. And we're going to get sure that we are going to navigate to the result page when we click on basically the go button. We can maybe set it on start animate for the animation type. Duration doesn't matter, it can be 300. Maybe we give it a try, and if it didn't work, then we can kind of play around with the settings. Now we can try the prototype, but before that I would like to also create the interaction of the reset button. When we basically click on the reset button, or the user does that, we need to get sure that the user is going to get navigate to first page, start page, and the basically random number variable is going to again get reset. So we need to set the value of that to the 0 number. So two things, we're gonna navigate to the start and we're gonna set the value of the random number to 0. Let's also get sure that first we set the random to the 0 and then we navigate to the start. Let's test our prototype and see if it works. So the counter is counting. If I click on the go, you can see that, okay, dice or the random number is 1. Second time, random number is 4. You can see that it's generating random number. The faster you click on this button, you basically can count, but you see the counter is very fast, so therefore you cannot really be that much fast. So each time you click on this button, you get a random number. Okay, let's try something and see if this kind of logic is good enough. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to the local variable one more time. I would like to change the maximum number to 1000 and see if we can generate a random number between basically 0 to 1000. We need to reset. You can see that the number that we are generating here is increasing very fast, but it's not like what we wanted. What I mean by not like what we wanted is that it is still predictable that what's happening is increasing. What we can do is we can change the random factor parameter. Maybe we can make it 50 or 54. You can also add more variables, make more complex mathematical equations, I don't know, multiply, divide, or whatsoever to make the number looks more random. You can see now the number is increasing faster. And then if I click on the go, you can see that the random numbers are getting generated. But yeah, you got the point, huh? How you can create a random number. For now, I'm going to set it again to the maximum to the 6 and the random parameter to 1, because I would like to create a prototype in which the user can roll the dice. So you can see when you click on the go, you get the number. It works pretty well. In the last step, we need to create a component with 6 variants, and each variant is going to represent a side of a dice. So we basically are going to create our dice visually, and then we're gonna assign the random number, the value of the random number that has been generated, to the name of the variant or to the name of the properties of the variant. In this way, if the random number is, for example, 0, then we're gonna show the variant number 0 to the user, which is going to be this 0 side of the dice. So this is how you can basically make a dice that is going to get rolled randomly. So let's get back to Figma again. I'm gonna make it very simple. I'm going to make one square here. This square is going to show the side number 0. We can also add dice at the beginning, In this way, if you convert this frame to so to say to components, then you can see that we can automatically create a component named dice and the property, which is the side basically. So basically we are creating properties automatically. Okay, let's for now decrease the opacity, not the opacity of the whole layer, but the opacity of the background. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create another frame here inside this frame. Let's get sure that it's in the center of the parent frame. And yeah, now let's add a background color to this one, which is going to be the dice. So I'm gonna add some corner radius, and then we can maybe change the background to a little bit dark color, like black or close to black. And then I'm gonna also add a stroke. To the stroke, I would like to have a gradient effect. So okay, sorry, not the fill, but the stroke. So yeah, set the stroke type to the gradient, play around a little bit with this gradient properties. I'm not going to really focus so much on the appearance. Then I'm going to use the shape circle to create the side of a dice, the number, the indicator of the dice, which is going to show the number. So the first one is going to be basically red dot, which is showing the number 0 for the side 0. And now I'm going to use this one to create a component set, but we're gonna for now create all the sides and then select all of them and then convert all together to a component, so we are not in a rush. So this one is showing the 0. Basically our dice has 7, let's say, sides, and yeah, this one shows like 0, huh? But yeah, let's make the first side. The first side is going to be number 1, and then we can duplicate the same frame and make the side 2, which is going to show the number 2. I'm gonna do it very randomly, but you can get sure that you spend a little bit more time to create the sides prettier and more mathematically correct. I mean the arrangement and the distances and the spacing between the element and everything else. But for now we are good, we can continue. So number 4, and here we can make the number 5 in the center if I can, yeah. And side number 6, which is the last basically one, yes. So now we have all the sides and also one new side, which I call it 0. But yeah, so now all the dices are there, all the variants, all the sides. I'm going to select all these layers that we made, and here I'm going to open this menu on top and click on create a component set. In this way we will make a component named dice with the properties, which basically we can call it, I don't know, side, and the name of the dices are the one that we set. But I now remember that we need to get sure that this value, the name of the variant, should be equal to the values of the random number, because we want to connect it to that one. Therefore, I'm going to get sure that this the first variant has the 0 value for the properties for the variant name, and the rest can follow the same logic. So yes, and now the names are ready. We had this prototype here, this frame. Instead of using this number, I can add this dice, and instead of this basically value that we have for the property side of this inside of this component, we can connect it to basically to variable random number. And this means that if we go to the, or copy basically this instant and paste it, sorry, let me copy it again and paste it here in the next variant or next frame and make it even bigger a little bit. Let's bring this down. We can bring every element a little bit down, and yeah. So now we connect the variables already correctly. I guess it should work. So let's run the preview. You can see that the dice is there. The counter is counting. I click on the go. You can see that it shows the random number. We can reset. Yes, the dice is working and user can roll the stuff. Let's get rid of this counter, and then we are done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this counter from the design properties panel. I'm going to get sure to set the properties to the 0, the properties of the appearance. Sorry, not this one, that's a corner radius. Yeah. So we basically have it there, but it's hidden. So visually it's not going to bother the user. And now we're gonna run our last time. Okay, our screen is a little bit bigger. So let's get sure that the prototype is going to get run on the way that the whole design is fitting in the screen. So I'm gonna select the fit the width. Okay, it didn't work. So fit the width and height, everything fits, and then so everything is visible. We don't see the counter. We can click on the go and reset. Okay, the first one was a little bit, I thought it's not working, but that was also by luck. So reset, So we basically randomly making some, it's not that random actually, I get the 3 so often, but you got the point. So this is a way that you can basically create a random number inside of Figma by using some tricks. So there's no solution so far as of now that I'm talking with you inside of Figma to do the equal job, to do the same thing. And that was it for this video. I hope it helped you. I hope you found and learned something new in this video. And if it was so, don't forget to share this video with the other designers in your community. This is basically the best way to help and support me and of course the other designers. So sharing knowledge is the best way to contribute in the community. And smash the subscribe button right now if you haven't done yet, and stay tuned in my channel. And that was it. Let's learn together and see you in the next video.